Hi, my name is Renan, and I'd like to welcome you to this episode of Ask the Expert. I'm a director of digital marketing, also a certified dementia practitioner, and a senior home safety specialist with SmithLife Homecare. SmithLife Homecare has been in business for over 23 years, providing outstanding care to the residents of Montgomery County, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. We're a partnership with the Charles E. Smith Life Communities, and because of that partnership, we're able to provide our value-based price and outstanding care while maintaining the highest level of standards. For this episode, I have Mr. Steve Vasquez, a payroll and scheduling coordinator with SmithLife Homecare. We're going to discuss how our clients can create a successful schedule. Steve, thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to diving into scheduling with you and what creates an outstanding schedule. Can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and then just jumping right into it? Off the bat, what makes an outstanding schedule?
Sure. Thank you for having me. My name is Steve Vasquez. I am um, coming up on 2 years with SmithLife Homecare, so I love what I'm doing. I love connecting with the clients, caregivers, even though it's by phone. It's still a gratifying experience. Making sure we're having a good schedule going on and listening, telling us how much they love their caregivers. So that makes it feel good. Getting that feedback. But you mentioned what makes a successful schedule.
Yeah.
To get to that, honestly, it comes down to communication, um, really consistency and routine. If we're setting those three things up for success, we're communicating that. We're looking at a successful schedule. We're not only connecting with the caregiver, the client, also the primary contact. More so, if we're able to fine tune it, we fine tune it. You know, maybe a week's worth is not enough to kind of get some feedback. Maybe 2 weeks we get some good feedback. After 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, we are able to fine tune it more. So whether it's switching, whether it's increasing, whether it's decreasing, those three things really make a world of a difference with scheduling.
Thank you. That's consistency, communication, and routine. So let's dive into each one of those a little bit. Let's start off with communication. Communication, we have a scheduler, then our clients are assigned a client liaison, and the primary contact is generally either the client or a person who's in charge of the care. So can you tell me a little bit about communication and what makes for that successful communication?
Of course. So the communication can simply be just feedback, whether they like the caregiver, where they, adjusting, increasing, or asking the caregiver for specific tasks. So those little things, even though it might be little to you all or little to us, it does impact the success rate or just makes it more impactful for the client. Communicating the importance of details, whether it's medical or whether it's non-medical, all those details very helps us kind of get on top of it. Communicating whether we need a cancellation, whether we're going on vacation, the family's taking the client out, communicating that. Um, all that just comes together, whether coming into the staff, coming to us, the schedulers, and then we're communicating it over to our client liaison, what we hear as well. Just as far as we're able to, as long as we're able to kind of get that communication in, and we're able to communicate with the caregiver, the client, the more information we have, the better we are able to get on top of it, fix it right then and there.
Great. So you pointed to me when you said client liaison, and yes, I do serve as a client liaison to a lot of our clients. It's really part of that triangle of the scheduling team, client liaison, primary contact, or the client that might be a primary contact. Um, we go refining the service, and as we go refining the service, you said it's important that if they communicate, if they like the caregiver or don't like the caregiver, hopefully they like the caregiver. But why is it important that they communicate that to us?
Honestly, we have it just comes down to two things that we have in our system. We have a preferred caregivers list and a do not send list, and it's an actual list that's in our system where if it's on a do not send list, whoever is working, whether it's all after hours, during work hours, we're not allowed to put that caregiver back on to work with the client, work on the shift. And it can be a variety of things. It's just maybe it's just not a good fit. Maybe, obviously, performance could be definitely a thing. We put them on a do not send list. It doesn't have to be something detrimental. It could just be something where you just not feel comfortable with that caregiver. We put them on do not send list, and they will not be back, never be back. Preferred caregivers list, that's the best one. That's what we use where, for example, if we have a full schedule with one caregiver, if that caregiver wants to go on vacation, wants to go to the dentist, the doctor's appointment, and we take him or her off for that one day, we're able to reference that preferred caregivers list and pick somebody that's been there before, that knows the family, knows the client, knows the layout of the house. And call them and ask them if they're available to go back. A lot of times that caregiver is happy to go back because they know the client. A lot of times they go, oh, I remember them. I want to go back. So that preferred caregivers list in a crunch definitely helps.
So we're always refining the service, and we want to make sure that from day one, everything that we're doing is to improve the service because everything has a momentum. So that list really helps us to refine the service. We're always going to lean towards the caregivers on the preferred caregivers list. We'll never send back the caregivers on the do not send list. And that really helps everybody out. Now let's go to the next point. You said consistency. So let's talk a little bit about consistency. What are your thoughts on consistency with a schedule?
Sure. So consistency, definitely, when it comes to just scheduling, it's just keeping a set amount of hours, set amount of days, constant. We know we cannot guarantee that you want the same thing every single week. Same thing. We cannot guarantee that. And we're different. We're human. But once we start adjusting it, once we start changing a day, the hours, the caregiver that's on there, might not feel comfortable, or it affects their time after the shift. They might not want to be back. They might want to put leave, or might not be able to continue. But that's when communicating gets very, we need to intensify it, because as we're able to communicate, you tell us first, we're able to communicate to the caregiver, find if the caregiver is willing to adapt to those changes. If not, we do have to find somebody else. But again, the consistency, definitely, if we're keeping those same days, those same hours, week in, week out, we're going to find that caregiver being there all through the year, through the months, through the weeks. And honestly, that's like the best case scenario. With same caregiver all time, we're able to caregivers are able to build that relationship with the client, family, and basically we're all happy at that point.
So a couple things to touch up on. I think when you say consistency, if they have like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule, they will probably want to keep that for a certain amount of time, right? As opposed to one week doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the next week doing Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, the next week doing Monday, Friday, Sunday, right? So every time they change the schedule, are you saying that basically risks changing the caregivers?
I don't want to say 100%, but that's very, very, that's a big possibility. Every time we're changing it, it's like you sign up for Monday to Friday, and then every week, they're just telling you, all right, you're shifting over for 3 weeks, 3 days this week. The next week you're doing, that's the same thing we're doing to the caregivers. At the end of the day, the caregiver is looking at this as their way of paying their bills. That's how it's their job. If we're constantly telling them it's different here, different there, they're going to start looking elsewhere, which is not what we want. We want to communicate them that this is a change. If they're adaptable, we're able to make it happen. But again, if they're not willing to, if they're not available for those set times and days, fortunately, we're looking at different caregiver.
Yeah, so a couple of good points is that when a client looks for care, we have filters that we put on, and some of those filters might be based off of the location. It filters down our 450 caregivers to less, and then based off of the care notes, maybe if the client has dementia, now we need a dementia certified caregiver or dementia trained caregiver, and that filters it down even less. So then we have a smaller pool of caregivers to choose from with those filters. But then the schedule is a very important one. If the caregiver has a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule with the client, but then they change the Friday to Thursday, the caregiver might have another job, right?
Yeah, that's definitely the case. So when we're looking at a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so those 2 off days, that's Tuesday and Thursday, the caregiver might pick up a shift with us, and they'll do like a fill-in with another client or whatever's available. So and they make their hours for the week. Now, if we're scheduling differently every week and you still want the same caregiver, the next week when we adjusted the schedule, that caregiver, like you mentioned, they
Might
took
not be
something else.
available.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing is that we schedule per the client's needs. So the client has certain needs, and too much care or too little care could actually kind of hurt the case because we want the client to get back onto the road to independence. Too little care, the client might not be safe. Uh, but so we go advising the client on what makes a successful schedule, but the primary contact or the client's in the driver's seat. Um, let's talk a little bit about what kind of schedule do caregivers like? Because a caregiver, I don't think would want like a 3 hour shift. We can do 3 hour shifts, but they don't ideally want those. So, can you talk a little bit about what do the caregivers want? Because we can't force the caregivers to stay on anything.
Good point there. So definitely, it's a good topic to talk about because a lot of time we're looking for the care of the client. We sometimes forget what the care what the caregiver wants. But with the caregivers, I get the phone calls. My colleagues get the phone calls every day, every other day, and it's they're looking for Monday to Thursday, Monday to Friday, whether it's 5, 6 to 10, maybe even 12 hours. Surprisingly, 12 hours. They're willing to work it. We have to keep in mind the more hours they're able to do, the more the less they have to keep working elsewhere. So if they have a set schedule from Monday to Thursday, Monday to Friday, 12 hours or even 8 hours a day, they're making the hours. They don't have to work elsewhere. Here and there, if they're available, they can take extra. But definitely one of the most popular is Monday to Thursday, Monday to Friday, 12 hours, 10 hours, 8 hours, even Friday through Sunday, 10, 12, something, hours enough where they're able to feel good. And if they have extra space, they can take an extra day. So if someone's doing Friday through Sunday, they can take an extra day and they complete their hours for the week. So it just really depends on what they're looking for as a caregiver, and a lot of time it's those 12 hours, 10 hours throughout the week is what makes a difference for them. They love it.
Yeah, and again, we can make those smaller shifts work, but the caregiver ideally doesn't want to keep driving around with the high gas prices. Uh, Now let's jump into routine. Routine is the third part of the triangle that you mentioned. And we've already covered communication, we've covered consistency. Now let's talk a little bit about routine.
Sure. So the routine, definitely when the clients first come in, we have what we think is the best routine or the plan, but the routine happens when the client and the caregiver, because let's keep in mind we're not there with the client and the caregiver. The primary contact probably can't be there with the client and the caregiver, so a lot of times we're setting it up and we're letting it go. So when we have a good routine and plan, they can work on that. Now when the client and the caregiver start getting along and it's a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, they themselves build a routine with them with as themselves and are able to go with that. But again, keep in mind, you can always reach out to us and tell us, hey, look, can we have the caregivers do X, Y, and Z? Can we make this a routine? Yes, 100%. I think and I advise routine is always good because it's something for the caregiver to do, something to check, the caregivers can check with the client to do. And if we're able to keep that, we're able to keep the caregiver motivated and stimulate them on the job with the client. And again, it's a routine where they're gonna meld together. They're gonna build that relationship, and I keep saying relationship because um, the best of our caregivers that we have in our selection, they tell me time and time again, they don't see the client as a client. They don't see the client as a job. They see them as their family. They see them like their mother, like their father. They see them like a part of themselves. So that's why we see that better care. So when we're giving them that routine, they're giving them something to do, something to look forward to.
That's one of the reasons that I love my job, is because it is like we're helping families, and I end up feeling like part of their family. I'm sure you do too. We're very honored to be of service. And another thing that I'd like to mention is that routine. It just doesn't just start on day one. It's something you build up to, because day one, it's like the caregiver shows up and it's almost like a blind date, because the caregiver is like, here I am, and the client's looking at the caregiver, and you hope that it's a match made in heaven. But sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. I think more often than not, we do a great job with the intake notes and passing it on, and it is a match made in heaven. But again, we refer to that preferred caregivers list and do not send, so we always pivot back to that. As we move forward, let's talk a little bit about a 24/7 schedule, because we've talked about some of the smaller services, but then sometimes the client's needs go changing, and before you know it, there's a slip and a fall, and they need 24/7 to make sure that they're not going to get up in the middle of the night and they're safe. And that's why we do senior home safety assessments, is to make sure that the house is safe, to prevent all of that. But if we do go into a 24/7 job, what can our clients expect?
Definitely. I love talking about 24/7s because it's just it's one of my favorite. Actually, it's the whole office's favorite to kind of staff because it's so many working pieces. But honestly, once it starts working, and it's months, weeks go by, and we kind of forget about it because how good it works. Because we found a good team, we found the communication between the PC, primary contact, and the caregivers are just so fluid, and with the office staff that we don't talk about it, and that's how good they are. They just keep going because just to get to it. So 24/7. So we're looking at four different caregivers, four different shifts. With a caregiver that does, we find one caregiver to take the day shift Monday to Thursday. Day shift that can be it's 12 hours, or it can be adjusted, but 24 hours there. And then we have a caregiver in the evening, Monday to Thursday. Then we have a caregiver Friday through Sunday, day shift, and then a caregiver on the evening, night shift. Within those 24 hours, no caregiver is allowed to leave without the other caregiver showing up. So there's never a time where the client's left alone. Um, with that being said, the Monday to Thursday, the caregiver is getting overtime, and also as well as the nighttime caregiver. That overtime, it's something a lot of caregivers look forward to because it's extra money in their pocket. They're able to pay their bills with that. Um, and again, 24/7, we're not just sticking anyone on there. We're looking for the best of the best caregivers that we have in our selection. When I say best of the best, we're looking at caregivers that are well seasoned, um, have a great experience with us, have been working for years with us, have been on other 24/7s, have been working 12 hours, that are used to working 12 hours. Someone that's going to be just ready to work and communicate those details. And again, when I mentioned previously where these caregivers are they see the client as like their mother, like their father, like a part of them. Those seasoned veteran caregivers, that's how they see the clients. The well seasoned ones, they go and they know what to expect. They know little things can happen. They can adjust. They're able to communicate very well. Communicate to the staff what's going on. Just keeping us up to date. Um, but again, before I keep rambling on, that's basically what 24/7 is.
Yeah, I think one of the cool things about the 24/7 is that we only have four caregivers in there, and actually two of the caregivers, the Monday through Thursday caregivers, day and evening, they're incurring 8 hours of overtime each, which you said they like, but the client's not paying for that overtime, right? And so we actually absorb that cost. So on top of our already low prices, we're absorbing that cost. We do it for the sake of maintaining continuity of care, so that we don't put six caregivers on there, and then it becomes, too many cooks in the kitchen, for lack of better terms. But so we don't pass on that to the client. We absorb that. I think another important thing, probably the last thing that I want to leave our viewers with, is that you mentioned that as part of the communication, that the clients can communicate to the office. So how do the clients know exactly who their caregivers are and how to reach out to their caregivers? So if they want to communicate with their caregivers after the clients start service with us, tell us a little bit about. I know, if I help a client start service, then I put out an email to the scheduling team. What happens at that point?
So once we receive that email, we definitely connect. We start working on connecting with the caregivers. Once we get the everything in place, the schedule in place, we like to, depending on your preference, whether it's a phone call, whether it's email, definitely an email. But if it's a phone call, we'll give you a friendly call, let you know, hey, it's been staffed. This is the caregiver, name and phone number. And I know that's too much to take through the phone, so we'll send that email. We'll send the email out with the set days, the caregiver who's going to be there, the name of the caregiver as well, and just a friendly reminder that call us, let us know. We're the scheduling team. We're happy to adjust anything that's needed to be done with the schedule. Let us know. But again, if anything is needed regarding the caregivers and whatnot, just call us. Let us know about that. That's the only way we can make it better, not only for the client but for everyone's sake. But again, if you do lose that email, if you do forget, if you wrote it down, you forgot it, just call us and we'll be happy to just tell you, hey, yeah, this is the caregiver that works on the weekend. This is the number, and you feel free to call. Feel free to text that caregiver. But keep in mind, like you might tell a caregiver and advising them, hey, can you take an extra day, extra hour? Just remember, communicate with us so we can communicate with them. At the end of the day, we don't want to put anyone in a bad spot. We want to make sure the communication's all even. So as long as we're getting the information first, we're able to communicate with the caregiver, put it into works.
Yeah, we sorry to cut you off, but we definitely
Yeah.
encourage all communication to come through the office. Sometimes there could be an inconsistency if the caregiver says yes, but then they turn to us and say
Yeah.
no. So it's always better. Also, we thoroughly document everything. All phone conversations, all actions are documented. And then just to go back to that start of service, it becomes like a 1, 2, 3. We have a very easy start of service, and then we don't just like all of a sudden disappear. The person that helped them start the service, which is usually like a certified dementia practitioner, a senior home safety specialist, somebody who has years and years of experience with clients helping care. They bring the client in, they work with the client, then it goes to our scheduling team, then it goes back to a client liaison, this ongoing communication. And did you want to say anything else? Because I did cut you off, so my apologies for
No,
that.
no. I can't, there's nothing else I can kind of put out there. It's just again, just I just think the most gratifying thing of it all is just what our caregivers say, saying that the client is a part of the family. I think that's the most beautiful thing they could ever say to us, because again, knowing that a caregiver looks at their family member that way makes just warms your heart and just makes you feel comfortable. Honestly, all I can say.
Yeah, well, before we end this, I just want to give a big thank you to Steve and to the rest of our scheduling team, Ebony, Hubert, and Pearl. You guys do a phenomenal job. And in all the years that I've worked here, we've never let a job go unstaffed. So my hat's off to you guys. And I want to thank all the viewers for joining us today and watching. Hopefully this video gives you some insights into what makes a successful schedule. Again, one big thank you to Steve, and we wish you guys all the best. Take care.